welcome to Scherzo TV. I'm your host, the friendly neighborhood music-loving Frog. In today's episode of 1 Hour Challenge, I will be exploring Pianeet's version of tori from the IDOLM Master. Okay, honestly, I'm hoping I did not completely butcher that name, but that's my best rendition. Anyhow, before I begin, I'll just quickly review the rules of the challenge. As per usual, I am doing a piece that I have not practiced before, and I will be learning it in 3 sessions of 1 minute, 10 minutes, and then 1 hour. And then after each one of those sessions, I will be playing through the piece. Without further ado, let's get started! That felt really short, to be honest. So this piece I think it's pretty cool because in terms of lyricalness, it definitely is like, it holds a high degree of kind of that melodic lyricalness that I like. Okay, a couple of technical things, which I am not sure exactly how well this will get to turn out. Obviously, it's kind of nice because everything more or less fits on their head. Like, you don't have anything that's, you can call it like non-pianistic, but it's definitely kind of confusing just when you look at it because the patterns are all like wavy and stuff. So I do not anticipate a great result for the current playthrough, but I guess I'll take this time to try and familiarize myself as best as I can with whatever's going on and then identify maybe the sections that I'll need to work on. Okay, so first of all, there's a lot going on in this piece. I have to say, like, I don't know if this counts as like, whatever, you might want to call it like pop music or something. It's definitely one of the more complicated ones I've seen, both in terms of like harmonically and just structurally, because it has this kind of, I would say contrapuntal thing going on in the middle, as well as just like the harmonies being a little more interesting than general. In terms of musically speaking, I don't think there's anything like huge or groundbreaking that's going on. Mostly it's technical stuff and also getting the beat to actually work properly. Because to some degree you want this to have the freedom that it deserves. Especially in some of the middle sections and whatever, you want it to have this kind of, I would say, rhapsodic feeling almost. And that's great and all, but I might need to like stiffen up the structure before I actually do anything about the freedom, because otherwise it's just kind of a pile of mush, if that makes any sense. Particularly, there are a couple of areas where I really need to figure out what's going on in terms of like the harmonic and technical, I don't know, filigree, if that's the word for it. Because at glance, you can kind of see, at least when I was sight reading through it, it's not like the kind of stuff that goes against the hands. As in, if you actually do it properly, it should be comfortable to put your hands on. But unfortunately, it's just a lot of stuff, and it's kind of hard to like actually properly sight read it, because you're just kind of looking at I'm looking at the harmonies like, okay, so that's the harmony, but I do not have the time when I'm sight reading to actually figure out the notes for it. So a lot of that stuff in the middle, I was just like trying to fumble my way through, essentially, because it's just faking your way with the harmonies. So yeah, that's kind of something that you want to solve if you're actually going to play it properly, instead of just mashing it like I do. But other than that, it's nothing surprising though. Like, just given the density of the notes, almost, if you look at the page, that's kind of something you want to practice, because otherwise it's just not gonna happen. Like, it's not gonna happen on its own, essentially. I might want to find a good tempo for it though, because if you go too fast, there's not enough time to actually do anything properly, and then if you add the pedal, then it's gonna sound like absolute hell, a disaster. So for the moment, at least, I feel like I might need to go a little bit under tempo, and then once I figure out everything with the middle, like as in all the technical parts and stuff, I'll try and up the speed a little bit. That's assuming, of course, that I can actually pat all the technical stuff down properly, because otherwise I'm still going to go a little bit on the slower side. Nothing enough to hinder like the actual music though, because you need that to flow well, but just, not push yourself too much. Okay, let's get started then. Also, there are a lot of hidden lines in this. I forgot to say this, but there are definitely like a lot of hidden melodic lines, especially in the left hand. So I am going to go through and kind of comb everything out during the 10-minute session. Like, where are the melodies, what are the harmonies exactly, hopefully clear up some of the notes. Yeah, I really got to say, in terms of all the pieces I've done so far for like the challenges, this is like surprisingly complex on the voicing side, because you kind of want like a nice balance of everything that's going on in both the left hand and the right hand, but kind of, especially when you're just starting, it's hard sometimes to work with two things simultaneously. And I keep on misreading this B flat as a G, which is super annoying. Honestly, I don't even know how far. 3 minutes. I'll just shut up for now. Ooh! Okay, that is actually really surprisingly hard to get on the hands. Because sometimes it's so annoying, because I know exactly where it is. And then the hands is kind of like, well, frog. it's, it's off-duty time. I mean, I'm getting off work in 15 minutes. It's not the time for this right now. And that is so annoying. I am not joking. I have to say, maybe the only piece more annoying in terms of like the voice switching, especially between hands. God, I hate voice switching between hands. Because you have to regulate. It's already, bad enough that you're trying to regulate all this stuff with the left hand. I mean, voicing is fine, and then switching voices between the hands is also fine. But then you come along and you give me all this who knows what in the left hand that's going on that is not regularly patterned. And then you put a melody at the top, which is supposed to be nicely voiced with the thumb, because I cannot play the top with anything else other than the thumb. And then you're coming along and then you're switching that along with the voice in the right hand. And like logically it makes so much sense. And also big props to Pianeet who did the piano's transcription, because honestly this is a nice way, at least in terms of like pure transcription, to split the melody. And logically and everything it makes the perfect sense. But in terms of just playability, this is so annoying because it is not sticking properly right now. So I have absolutely zero idea how this will go down. Okay, if things go badly, I always have the emergency plan, which is faking it. Because this piece thankfully does not have super changeable harmonies. Usually it changes. I mean, I'm talking about later on in the middle section, the tumultuous stuff, maybe once every 2 beats or so, which is great, which is perfect for sweeping things under the rug, because it's just kind of one harmony block, right? But optimally, you'll kind of get around to fixing everything. Obviously, if I do not have the ability to fix everything properly, that is the route I will go. I am just stating the worst case scenario right now. Hopefully that does not happen. But gosh, I hate to admit this, but this is probably the first time I've ever had to kneel down to this kind of voicing thing. Last time I think I struggled with anything similar was probably in the Lark, if any of you guys remember that challenge I did. But, I mean, I'll stop wasting my time here and I'll get on to it. That's all I have to say. Okay, honestly, I'm not sure how this is gonna go. This can only go one of 2 ways. One way is I practice for the hour and the learning curve is so steep that nothing happens at all and I still have to fake every single thing in the middle section. The other one is that I'll go through and then somehow it will magically clear itself up, because that does happen sometimes. I'm not joking. Sometimes if you go through slow enough at first and you actually sit down and see what's going on instead of doing what I'm doing and trying to bulldoze through everything in the middle without actually looking at it, which is a poor decision. Don't follow my poor decisions. Sometimes it does kind of move along by itself, especially if it's kind of in harmonic blocks, as this one is. And I really don't want to get my hopes up because, like, on one hand, this could be absolutely, awful. Like, if you do it wrong, right? And if it doesn't come up magically by itself, because this is, I know it's not like a lot of bars in that kind of sense, right? It's like, 121 bars, I think. And it's a relatively, I would say, more or less not all that big amount, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the left hand. Like, why is everything in the left hand? Y'all could give me something nice in the right hand to play with, right? Because left hand, your proficiency is always going to be somewhat lower than your right hand, I think. Unless maybe you're left-handed, I'm not sure. But yeah, there's just so much going on in the left hand, and I'll seriously have to spend the next hour just trying to clear up everything that's going on. And also, I think I might be playing on the fast side by accident. I seriously need to actually find a tempo for this, but not before I clear up everything in the middle. Okay then, I'll jump straight to the middle to see what's going on for the moment. Okay, so preliminary evaluation coming. It's not that bad, thankfully. Honestly though, when you look at it, actually, it's so easy because everything actually, it's good pianistically speaking. You don't have any crazy leaps or weird jumps or unfriendly figurations or whatever. Maybe the first 2 pages, left hand is really kind of unfriendly for me at least. But once you get into that middle section, because I think probably the main goal there is the sound effect and not necessarily the individual notes, so it gets a lot easier to play because I think that might actually be this kind of figuration, that's kind of actually improvisable. So I can see like that fits under the hand, but unfortunately there's so much of it. Like that's not the only part. If that were the only part, this would be fine. Like, you know, done, great, whatever, out. But unfortunately, that's not the only part. And there are more parts upcoming. I'm not like basically everything from there onwards up until like the contrapuntal section, and then after the contrapuntal section, and then after everything after that is like all of this nonsense going on, which is not so great because you know the sum of look, one ant near your foot is okay, right? 2 ants and then 3 ants is fine. But if you have like 50,000 ants swarming your feet, that's not as nice. Because you know you might be able to stomp one to death, and then you might be able to stomp the second one to death, but you are not going to be able to stomp that whole nest out. Which is kind of, I think, the core of the problem, because the learning curve is relatively high, because if you actually sit down and then you get everything done like piece by piece, this is perfectly fine. But if you're trying to eat this like in all one bite, you know, steak and plate and cutlery and napkin and table in all, like I'm trying to do, this is not so great, because this is literally like trying to, basically the equivalent is stomping out 50,000 ants under your feet, because you know this batch dies and then the next one comes, kind of. So I don't know exactly how much I'll be able to hold, like technically speaking. So yeah, it's so beautiful though. I like it. It's just that technically it's not the greatest thing ever to sit through 1 hour of practice of. Also, if you play it slowly, it's super satisfying. If you get the score, you ought to try this at least once, like just to play it kind of nice and slowly. Everything's perfectly fine. Your butt is not on fire, because this is actually kind of satisfying to play through. Just like listening to the harmonies move, I guess. Everything's great when you're not trying to play it fast and when you don't have all the figuration to deal with. Well, gosh, nothing to say. Hopefully this all goes well. Hopefully. I know for sure, like, I didn't really practice the contrapuntal section enough, so like for sure there's gonna be like bumps there. And hopefully, though, everything else is more or less fine. It better be fine because I spent like a whole hour on everything like that. But yeah, there isn't really much additional commentary to say. This was overall harder than I thought it would be, just because there are so many different patterns, right? But yeah, that's about it. So I'll stop talking and I'll get to the final run through then. for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe so you can hear more of my stuff. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!